Morning, everyone. It's just hit 11 o'clock, so we're going to get started for today's webinar. Thank you all for joining. So today's webinar is all about exploring ready-to-use content in ArcGIS, specifically for New Zealand. Some introductions. So for today's webinar, you've got myself and Carolina here presenting this. We're both a part of the technical solutions team here at Eagle Technology, but we're also a part of the content team at Eagle Technology. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, we're mostly going to be talking about ArcGIS Living Atlas. And so that's what is the Living Atlas, what's available in it, and how you can actually make the most of the resources and data sets available in the Living Atlas. And then we've also got some updates on what the content team at Eagle Technology have been working on. And then we'll finish with some slides on how to manage your own layers in ArcGIS Online and how you can contribute to the Living Atlas yourselves as well. Then we'll round off the webinar by sharing some resources with you all to help you with your journey, and then hopefully finishing with some time for a question and answer session. Cool. So in terms of asking questions, you should find a Q&A button at the top of the Teams meeting. And this should bring up a question panel on the right-hand side of your screen. And so if we really encourage you all to ask questions anytime throughout the webinar, and we'll do our best to answer as many of these as we can towards the end as well. Cool. So jumping straight into it, I just want to cover off some notices. So the first one is some deprecation notices. And so at the end of last year, we moved all of our raster base maps to mature support, except for the current imagery one. And so that's the LINS topo and geology base maps. And so this means that these layers are now static and will no longer receive any updates. So instead, we encourage you to move across to the vector base maps and the two supported raster base maps, as well as the retired versions. They've got different tiling schemes, and also will have issues with 3D web applications, and they also have fewer scale levels than the newer ones as well. So yeah, definitely make that move across to the more recent base maps. We've also changed how we name and update the boundary layers in Living Atlas. So we now have an archive version and a current version. So the current version has the most up-to-date data, and the archive version has all the other data. And so this is something to note when using these layers in ArcGIS. Some Esri updates in terms of their layers. They've just updated the world terrain and topo Basi layers with New Zealand high resolution elevation data from LINS's 1 meter DTMs. And so in the most recent release, around 40,000 square kilometers of new data has been added. And this now brings the total coverage to over 140 square kilometers of this really good high resolution data, which is great for New Zealand. Cool. So our first topic that we're going to cover off today is around content portals. So this is where you can find data sets and where data sets are hosted as well. So in New Zealand, we're very fortunate. We've got loads of geospatial content available. We've got a wide range of contributors, all the way from central government, local government, Crown institutes, for example, and many, many more as well. And so many of these organizations have their own data portals, and they all have the ability to connect directly into ArcGIS. And so our aim at Eagle is to make this content ready to use as possible throughout the whole ArcGIS platform. And this is to basically save all of you guys time, so you spend less time sourcing, cleansing, and publishing that data, and then you can spend more time on the rest of your business needs, for example. These data sets are all really easily accessible. They're very easy to find in ArcGIS Online, ArcGIS Pro, for example. And they're also authoritative. That's a big one. So you know who the publisher is, you know the currency of the data, and how often it's updated. So they're all very reliable data sets as well. And so this is something that we want to enforce, that it's a joint effort from Esri, Eagle, but also our community across New Zealand as well. And so not only are there many sources of where you can get your data from, but the data comes in a variety of different formats. And so ArcGIS supports many formats out of the box. So for example, you can connect to web feature services from coordinate portals that are used by some organizations such as LINS or Stats New Zealand. And then also with the new data pipelines in ArcGIS Online, you've got the option now to convert data from a variety of sources. So this could be from JSON, CVs, and WFS to an ArcGIS feature service through a SAS ETL process. But also in ArcGIS Enterprise, there are ways to connect to a wide variety of data sources, even if they aren't supported as of yet. And this is by using a custom data feed in ArcGIS Enterprise. Another way to connect to data is by connecting directly to a cloud object store, like Amazon S3 or Azure Blob Storage. This is exciting, as just recently LINS have made all the imagery from councils available through an S3 bucket, and this includes a lot of historic imagery as well. But however, all those methods, that takes time. And so that's one of the reasons why ArcGIS has this thing called Living Atlas. So yeah, along with all those open data portals that are freely available to you, as customers of Esri, you have access to Living Atlas. And this is the foremost collection of geospatial data in the world. Yeah, as Living Atlas is an Esri product, you can easily add and use the layers in your work. And these items are authoritative, as I mentioned before, and ready to use to add to all your analysis and your work. So yeah, they should save you time and resources, so you don't have to download, you don't have to publish, and you don't have to maintain them yourself. And a lot of this content is contributed by the wider GIS community. When you use the Living Atlas layers, you can ensure the integrity of your work is good, as all layers have to go through a checking process to make sure that they meet the quality required to receive that authoritative tick. So the Living Atlas has a huge variety of world data sets. And we also have heaps of New Zealand specific ones as well. And this includes specific New Zealand layers and deep learning models that we've worked with you guys to add from your organization as well. But another thing that I want to touch on is another data repository that we've been working on internally at Eagle, and have recently published, is a ArcGIS Content Hub site. So yeah, one of the biggest aspects of creating this hub site was to promote New Zealand specific content in Living Atlas. And so the audience for this is pretty much anyone and everyone who uses ArcGIS. And so yeah, being existing users of ArcGIS, you already have access to all the content in Living Atlas, but you now have access to this hub site as well. And so we've incorporated a lot of how-to guides as well to help you guys really make the most of the content available. And so one of the biggest aspects of choosing to use ArcGIS Hub is Hub's ability to share data and content. And so over the years, we've added more and more layers to Living Atlas, and this continues to grow as well. And so leveraging those features of Hub, we've started to bring all that data together into one centralized place. And so yeah, I'll just quickly show off what that Content Hub site looks like as well. So this is the home page of the Hub site. Again, it's available to anyone. It's shared publicly, but if you don't have a ArcGIS online account, you won't be able to actually access the specific content within it, but you can see, you can pretty much see everything that's on there anyway. So what we've tried to do is separate all the layers in Living Atlas into 12 different categories. So we've got base maps, we've got elevation in 3D, boundaries, base data, data sets related to people, so that's like the stats, census layers. Then you've also got infrastructure and so on and so on. And so if I go into, say, GeoAI, for example, just show off one of these pages, what we've done is where we can, we've included some information about the specific category, and then also yeah, because we've been working a lot in the GeoAI space. The team have been working really hard on creating story maps to help anyone get started on the GeoAI journey. And so we've included some of those here. But what we've done is we've pulled out the New Zealand specific layers, put them into a group in ArcGIS Online, and then displayed them here so you can see, okay, what's available in New Zealand, but then you can also see what's available from Esri as well. And so if you hit explore more, it takes you to a ArcGIS Online account that or group that you can access all that content from as well. So it's just helpful to put everything all in one place. And again, this is something that we're going to continually work on and adding more information and improving to help you guys along the way. So yeah, as I mentioned, there's also some how-to guides in terms of how to make the most of the content that's available in Living Atlas. And so these story maps, a lot of them are created by the team at Eagle. And what we've done is we've tried to collate them all into the specific categories, and yeah, just have one landing page that everyone can just go to and hopefully use to get started. There's also a link that takes you to all the useful blogs that Esri post, which I do highly recommend checking out as well. And then lastly, there is a contribute button. And so we'll touch on this a bit later, but this is all about how we can get the community, how we can get you guys to help build up New Zealand's Living Atlas with your information as well. So yeah, definitely go ahead and would recommend checking out this resource. Just pull up my slides again. Oh, so yeah, that was just a basic introduction into the Living Atlas and also the data portals that are available and how you can best use them. But now I'll hand over to Carolina to talk about how to really make those Living Atlas layers your own.
Thank you, Ashley. Before I jump into making Living Atlas layers into your own highlight layer, I would like to show you how to find them. So with all these layers available in Living Atlas, it is important how to find them. And there are several ways to find and use Living Atlas layers in your work. First, the Living Atlas, accessible at livingatlas.com. It allows you to access an extensive collection of layers that can be integrated into your maps. You can search layers by keyword, category, or location. Next, ArcGIS Online content page. To access this, you can open your ArcGIS Online account and navigate to the content page. Here you can search for layers and view item details. Then Map Viewer. So when adding a new layer in Map Viewer, you can expand the drop-down list and click Living Atlas. And last, ArcGIS Pro. You can import Living Atlas layers through a portal in the catalog pane. You can also mark your frequently used Living Atlas layers as favorites, which will make it easier for you to locate them again in the future. Now I will guide you through the process of transforming Living Atlas layers into your very own highlight layer. And I'm going to share my screen. Here I already added a OpenStreetMap shops layer from the Living Atlas, but let's make it more focused. We'll start by filtering the data to display only what's relevant. In this case, I would like to only show supermarket data. Adding an expression in the filter tab. Now let's take a step further by adding another Living Atlas layer. By expanding the drop-down list in the map viewer, I can click Living Atlas and then search for my desired layer. In this case, I'm adding New Zealand suburbs layer from Lens. However, we want to improve the clarity between the suburb layer and the shops layer. To do that, we can change the symbology color of the suburb layer. Black. And then consider turning off the labels to remove the duplicated labels between the base maps and the suburb layer. Now with this suburb layer added, we can understand how supermarkets are distributed across suburbs. To make this data even more accessible, we can customize the pop-up using Arcade. By clicking the shops layer, go to the pop-up tab, and add your attribute expression. Using the intersects function in my Arcade expression, we can access suburb data that intersects with the shop data. For a more seamless mapping experience, you can also easily pull in data from another layer without having to add it into your map. This is achieved through a function called feature set by portal item. There. In this case, I am incorporating additional information from purchasing power per capita Living Atlas layer. Now we have the Arcade expressions we want to incorporate. Next, we need to edit the pop-up text. Click OK. And there you have it. Our pop-up now provides valuable insights into the suburb and the purchasing power per capita information where each supermarket is located. Additionally, the pop-up also shows the access to view or edit this feature in OSM Editor. I will revisit this later to demonstrate how to update OSM. Now let's explore the analytical capabilities of our map. Imagine identifying 5-minute walk buffer of these supermarkets. We can do this by going to the Analysis tab and search for a tool called Generate Travel Area Tool. And by setting the parameters, put the input layer as jobs layer, travel mode as walking time, and the cutoff time of 5 minutes or more. And I have already run this tool to save time, which will look like something like this. And as you can see, the travel area of these supermarkets have been generated by running this tool. The symbology has also been customized of this travel area based on the supermarket name. Now every supermarket has a unique color for its own walking buffers. Moving forward, let's enrich these 5-minute walking buffers with the population data. To do this, I have used Enrich Layer tool, which allowed me to add population variable from the 2018 Stats New Zealand Census data. The result layer has population figures within the 5-minute walk areas, which looks like something like this. However, we want to make it more visually compelling, and we will modify the symbology once again. We go into the symbology tiles pane, and then I will choose counts and amounts in the bracket size, which demonstrate bigger impacts with larger symbols instead of the walking area polygon. And then we will use the newly released vector symbols for a fresh look. Click done. Now that we have our map and the essential information that we want to show, we can create charts to visualize the data. For instance, here, I have created a pie chart that groups data into slices to visualize part-to-whole relationships. As we can see here, it looks like Thai fruit and veggie supermarket might have the most impact based on the population value. Last, we can create an instant app from Map Viewer right away. In this example, I have used the new Atlas Instant App template that includes lightweight tools to discover, view, explore the curated maps and layers. I will now pass back to Ashley.
Cool. Thank you so much, Carolina. Yeah, that was a really, really good example of how to use those living atlas layers in a really simple analysis workflow, and also a really good use case of just some simple arcade expressions to add that extra information to the analysis. Cool. So the next topic we're going to cover is deep learning. So ArcGIS AI deep learning, it's changed the way that we're using geographic information. It's the cutting edge technology that allows us to extract meaningful insights from a huge range of data sets. And so by integrating AI and deep learning into the ArcGIS platform, so many capabilities have now been unlocked. We can automatically analyze satellite imagery. We can detect changes in landscapes, identify objects in imagery such as buildings and trees. But you can also predict future trends based on historical data. And so here you can see how GeoAI can be used across so many different industries. For example, you've got GeoAI to start streamlining workflows around transportation and utilities. And one of the biggest goals of or using GeoAI, it can automate some of the time-consuming tasks that could be quite manual sometimes in your BAU. So yeah, you've heard about the Living Atlas and all the data sets that's available in there. There's 30 deep learning models available, including 10 that have been updated to become more accurate and reliable. And so all of these models are ready and waiting to be used through all your different ArcGIS platform. And you can do things such as wind turbine detection, road extraction, or even elephant detection in some cases, which is quite cool. And we also have 6 new models from New Zealand, and one of those models being recently updated. And so those can also be found in Living Atlas. So here are all the current pre-trained models that Eagle Technology have released for New Zealand. And these are free to use, and you don't even have to download them. You can just connect to them directly through the Living Atlas. And so we really encourage you to use these and apply them to your future workflows. And so last year we released a tree point classification deep learning package. And in the Q1 of this year, we've released a car and solar detection, solar panel detection model as well. And then in Q2 this year, we also released a swimming pool detection model, as well as recently with the new release of 2 models such as the building point classification and building extraction models. So a bit more about that swimming pool detection model. This was published around 3 months ago, or a few months ago now, yeah, at an 81% confidence level. And with other data from councils, we work closely with them to continue to upgrade this data. And it's now been upgraded to a confidence level of 95%. And we've made a rough calculation where, say a human can identify around maybe 70 pools an hour manually. With this deep learning model, you can pick up over 2,000 pools in 34 minutes. So yeah, just imagine the amount of time you can save just using any of these deep learning models. The two newest models in Living Atlas, that is the New Zealand building point classification, which you can see on the left here. And this is for LiDAR imagery in a point cloud. You've also got New Zealand building extraction model, and so this model is at a 83% confidence interval, where it's for aerial imagery. And so yeah, both of these models have quite high confidence levels already. As I mentioned earlier, we do have that hub site with step-by-step guides on how to apply those deep learning models. And yeah, there's always room for improving these. So we do really encourage everyone to get in touch if they have any maybe data sets that they think that could be useful, but also very keen to hear ideas on any future deep learning models that you would want to see the team publish and upload as well. In terms of imagery, at Eagle, we publish a fair few layers to ArcGIS Online. Some of those layers being more or less static, but many layers are being updated on a regular basis. So this is just some of those layers here. So within ArcGIS, you have access to a variety of different data sets. You can use the base maps, whether it's from Esri or even from premium imagery partners such as Maxar and Nearmap. You can access some premium base maps. There's also a large collection of satellite imagery available from Landsat and Sentinel, but also derived data from satellites like thermal hotspots and land cover datasets. You can also access elevation data for visualization and analysis. And then again, yeah, there's those deep learning models that you can extract data from maybe some of those imagery sources that are on the screen there. The New Zealand imagery base map is by far our most used base map. It's created from all the available publicly owned imagery, which is mainly flown by councils. And so just in the last year, there's been around 40 new data sets that's been added to this. And so you can combine this base map with maybe the New Zealand hybrid reference vector layer, to bring in the roads and labels on top of the imagery base map as well. So that's a good use case there. In terms of premium content, our partner Nearmap provides high resolution aerial imagery that's captured over 14 urban regions of New Zealand. And depending on the region, it is updated once or twice a year. And also through a partnership with Maxar, we can actually provide a premium base map that uses 30 centimeter resolution as a layer to complement the New Zealand imagery base map in ArcGIS. For New Zealand's elevation data, we've got high resolution data that's used in various ways. So we've got all this data being added to Esri's world terrain layer. And so this layer can be used to visualize and analyze the terrain. It comes with many predefined for visualizations like shaded relief. You can use it for slope, aspect, and contours, for example. And it's also added to the elevation layers in ArcGIS that can be used in 3D scenes as well. Both the DEM and DSM are used for hillshade, and so this brings context to your base maps. And a good use case for the hillshade is that it looks great when using some of those blending tools in ArcGIS. And all the 1 meter LiDAR data that's captured in New Zealand will find its way into the rest of these layers as that data is captured. You can also access satellite imagery within ArcGIS. And so the full archives of the Sentinel-2 and Landsat imagery are available as dynamic imagery services. You can use tools in ArcGIS to find imagery maybe at a specific date for a specific area. And as this is a multi-spectral imagery, you can set band combinations as well. Or even just to keep it simple, use some of the predefined combinations to visualize imagery to show maybe the NDVI, for example, or NDMI. But yeah, that's something that definitely is a good use case of the multispectral imagery. Cool, so that was just a really quick overview of deep learning and imagery. Just, yeah, based on the limited time we have, it was a very brief overview. But we're going to jump into another topic now, which is our vector-based maps and OSM. And I'll pass it over to Carolina to see how we've incorporated OpenStreetMap data into the Living Atlas.
Thank you, Ashley. Yeah, so I'm gonna go over vector-based maps and OSM. And Esri and Eagle host vector-based maps, all conveniently accessible in the Living Atlas. But the key difference between Eagle-based map and Esri-based map is that New Zealand vector-based map use OSM road data in NZTM for local compatibility. We also use automated scripts to ensure seamless monthly updates from OSM data to the New Zealand base maps. Esri base maps, also OSM derived, they offer various styles and undergo monthly update. Now let's preview some exciting updates that the team has been working on. And please note that these are works in progress and the final products may vary upon release. We've heard your request for contour lines in the Living Atlas, and we are pleased to announce that we are developing this layer. A beta version will be released soon, and we are generating 10 meters contours from 1 meter DEMs in New Zealand, and we also supplement areas without that 1 meter LiDAR coverage with Lens New Zealand contours dataset. We aim to offer these contour layers to seamlessly integrate it into your maps. And we are also going to integrate this contour layer with the topographic relief vector base map. Next, we are improving the road hierarchy to better distinguish highway roads and major roads. In Wellington, for example, Hut Road and the motorway appear side by side, but the current base map might mislead by implying a direct connection. Our upcoming update will address this, offering a clearer distinction between these road types. We have incorporated a new feature that taps into OSM road levels and bridge data. It is currently unused in our base map, but we will use this soon, and this data will enhance our base map by accurately showing which roads pass over or under others. So currently, higher tier roads may overlap lower tier ones, potentially suggesting a false interconnection. However, with the upcoming implementation of road levels, you will see more accurate details. Next, we are also updating the symbology of pedestrian routes. Previously, they kind of resembled minor collector or service roads, causing confusion and clutter. And this new change shows that pedestrian routes as dashed gray lines, providing a clearer visual separation. Last, we are separating the base and reference layers in our vector base maps to enhance location context visibility and minimize label cutoff issues. You can now reposition the reference layer below your data, aligning our base maps with Esri's canvas maps. As mentioned before, Esri and Eagle Vector Base Map use OSM data, a collaborative open source mapping platform known as the Wikipedia of maps. So it is important to note that being community driven, there may be gaps in information and accuracy across regions. Now I will delve into the process of updating OSM data directly from ArcGIS Online and its impact on our base map and Esri's live feature layers. Here within my map viewer, an OSM highway layer has already been overlaid onto New Zealand imagery. By clicking on a features pop-up, you get the option to either view or edit this feature using the OSM editor. In this case, let's edit the feature because it appears that the footpath at Coates Avenue is disconnected from the road. The OSM editor will appear, and if you don't have an account yet, you will need to sign up first. To rectify the footpaths in geometry, we can quickly identify and resolve the issue within the feature editor on the left, or you can just manually connect the nodes to the road, just like that. OSM accommodates various feature types for points, lines, and areas, making it a comprehensive resource for mapping a wide range of elements. Furthermore, you have the option to include more details in the field section. All fields are voluntary, and if you're unsure, you can choose to leave any field blank. The editor provides various features to add or modify. You can choose from points, lines, or areas. Points are usually used for pinpointing specific locations, such as addresses or shops. Lines help represent features like roads or waterways, and areas can be used to delineate boundaries, covering features such as lakes, buildings, or zones. And once you finish editing, save your changes. You will need to add a comment, and then you can just upload it. And that's how you update OSM dataset in the OSM editor. Beyond the OSM editor, there's also another powerful tool called Rapid Editor. This tool offers AI-generated map features and access to 100 different ArcGIS datasets that can be incorporated into OSM. You have the flexibility to choose your preferred ArcGIS dataset in Rapid Editor and use it to update OSM data. And once you finish editing in OSM, the impact of your updates from either Rapid or OSM will come through within minutes in Esri's live feature layers. Esri maintains about 12 different OSM feature layers, categorizing them by feature types, such as buildings, highways, amenities, shops, and regions, America, Asia, Australia, and more worldwide. And these layers can be utilized for data visualization, analysis, as demonstrated earlier. OpenStreetMap vector-based map by Esri, which is updated monthly, incorporate not only OSM dataset alone, but also daylight distribution enhancement. So what is daylight map distribution? Daylight adds quality check, error detection, and supplementary open data like Microsoft building footprints to the OSM data. So here's a comparison between daylight map and OSM dataset alone. I will now pass the floor to Ashley again.
Cool, thanks, Carolina. Yeah, that was a really, really great example of how the community can get involved and keep updating those OSM layers. Because again, it's a huge data set, and so the more people we can get among going through and making those changes, the more accurate the data sets will be for New Zealand. Cool, so this brings us to our last topic, which is around managing your own layers in Living Atlas. So as I mentioned, you can contribute your own data as well, and this is done by going to the Living Atlas website and going to the Contribute tab. And when nominating your item for Living Atlas, there's some best practices to follow before nominating an item. And so these are important when sharing data as well, even in your general BAU. So of course, the first is item details. These are important as they give information about the source of the data, the currency, and the update schedule, for example. But on the layer level, you also want to make sure you've got readable field names, pop-ups, and symbology set up as well. And so yeah, when an item is added to Living Atlas, it gets the Living Atlas badge. So that's that light blue badge you can see there. There's also another badge that you can assign to items, and that's the authoritative badge. And so by default, this badge is only visible to your organization members, even on public items, but you can have the authoritative badge show up for everyone on public items. But you do need to verify this with Esri first before that badge shows up for the public. And Eagle Technology can help with that process as well. So that's usually a good start to letting people know that an item is authoritative, even though it's not in the Living Atlas. And then once you do that, you can work either with us or follow the many, many resources out there to push your authoritative data set into Living Atlas. At Eagle, we do publish a lot of layers. And so these layers are continually updating. They're being updated daily, there's some monthly, and there's also some yearly with yearly updates. So for example, we've got the skills directory that's updated daily, but then we've got our council boundary layers that are updated annually. We also have layers that are being updated as data comes available, and so a good example of that is the imagery and elevation layers. And so that's as the high resolution imagery comes through from the rest of New Zealand. And so we do keep these layers up to date using various ways. And over the years, ArcGIS has provided with more functionality to make keeping these layers up to date even easier. So I'll just go through a couple of the approaches for that. The first in this example is with the New Zealand elevation metadata layer. So that's a hosted feature layer. When we publish this data, a view is created on top of the feature layer, and then a second feature layer is also published with the same schema. So one of the views looks at one of the feature layers that allows us to update the inactive features, and then check if the update was okay. And then there are also various ways to update this layer. So it could be done through uploading a new feature database to refresh the service. You could use ArcGIS Pro, and so that's using tools such as truncate and append. Or for the coders out there, you can use Python to update, delete, and add features that have been updated. We can then switch the view to point to the updated feature layer and then contribute the up-to-date data to the other feature layer as well. And so the benefits of this kind of process is that it there's minimal downtime, and you can easily fall back just in case if something does break. And it does allow for schema changes to be picked up in that new view as well. Another way is a more recent update in ArcGIS Online, and that's using the ArcGIS, a new feature in ArcGIS Online, which is the Update Data button. And this is where you've got more options now to update your data. You can just add features, you can update features, or you can do both and overwrite an existing service. And there's, yeah, as I mentioned, lots of resources from Esri that explains this method more in detail as well. A similar approach can also be used for hosted tile layers, for example, like our new hillshade DSM. Here we've got the hosted tile layer that's shared with the public, and it's in Living Atlas as well. And on this layer, we can use the replace layer option. You can select a new tiled service and choose the archive option and hit replace. And the benefits are that it stays the same with the feature tile layer. With this method, you can publish a new hosted tile layer that you use for the replace method. And so what we do is we only update areas that have new data. So we create a tiled layer with just that specific area, and then we update the non-active tiled layer using the admin rest endpoint. And so if you go to the URL of the layer and add admin to after rest, in the URL, you get to the admin endpoint. And you just need to sign in with an inbuilt user that has the right privileges. And then at the bottom of the page, you can choose import as well. And then in the import window, you can then point to the tile package layer that you want the updated data, and then also choose the method that you want to use for your input as well. There are, yeah, as ArcGIS evolves, there's more and more ways to process and update data sets. So we do encourage moving across where possible to ArcGIS notebooks, but within Eagle, we're also keeping an eye on a more recent feature known as data pipeline. So that's currently in beta, and we're looking into using that to automate some of our processes as well. Cool. So yeah, that was a lot of content, and that brings us to the end of our webinar. I just want to say the team at the content team at Eagle are always keen to hear everyone's feedback and any new ideas that could be around layers that you want to see in the Living Atlas, new deep learning packages, but we also just want to get your feedback as well on, for example, that new content hub site resource that we've just published. So yeah, feel free to reach out at any time to livingatlas@eagle.co.nz. To round off the webinar, I just want to share some resources that we highly recommend for you guys all to use when making these living atlas layers your own. So a very key one is the blogs from Esri, all the documentation you can find online as well. But a key one again is that hub site that we've published. Some upcoming training that's happening. We've got some instructor-led courses. One is, I believe, next week. So that's an introduction to GIS using ArcGIS. And then also one around Python and ArcGIS, and that's the following week as well. So yeah, if you're interested, check out eagle.co.nz/learn to find out more. And then to finish off our webinar series this year, we've got on the 30th of November a webinar around local maps, which is Eagle's own published technology. Cool. So that brings us to the Q&A session. So I believe we have a few minutes to cover off some questions that you guys might have. Feel free to pop them into the chat using that Q&A button at the top. Let's have a look. So it looks like there's a question around when will the contour lines be available to use? Hopefully sometime soon. We're hoping by the end of this year. Right now we've played around with all the different workflows to create this contour layer. And we're just in the final steps of processing the data set across New Zealand. It is a very, very large data set, so the processing does take a wee while, but we've now figured out the workflow that we want to use in terms of how to make these contour lines look the best on the map for you guys to use. So yeah, keep an eye out, and hopefully by the new year we'll have that ready for you guys. Looks like another question, maybe something that you could answer, Carolina. So someone's asked, can you edit OSM features in bulk?
Yes, like one of the ways to bulk edit is by ensuring your dataset is accessible within the Rapid Editor platform. So if you believe as an organization you have a dataset that could enhance OSM and that it could be beneficial for the community and it's missing in Rapid Editor, you can upload it to ArcGIS Online as a hosted feature layer and reach out to the official team of OSM at Esri to make sure you get facilitated the integration of your ArcGIS dataset into Rapid Editor.
Oh, looks like there's no more questions at this moment. I just want to mention that this webinar has been recorded and will be available through Eagle's YouTube channel pretty soon after this. And so you can access those slides as well through that webinar recording. I guess Carolina and I will stay on the line for the next few minutes, just in case any of you have any other questions. But other than that, thank you all for joining, and we hope you've got something to take away from this webinar. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your day.